Hey guys! So, it's Live Lettering Thursday. Never mind that we had some technical difficulties earlier, of course. It seems like everywhere I go, the internet doesn't work. But I'm back at my house now and miraculously it's working. So, we'll see if it stays working. Let's see here. We're gonna do a little bit of chalkboard lettering today. So, trying to figure out what I'm doing. There we go. All right. So I have a chalkboard sitting out here. And for those of you, it was a 50-50 split on who wanted my favorite materials and who wanted chalk lettering. So I figured that I would talk about some chalk lettering stuff on live and then put together a free resource guide to give you guys on my favorite materials. And that way I can send links and kind of show you what they look like. And then maybe I can do a follow-up live lettering with that and using the favorite materials and what for. So I thought that would, let me know if that's cool with you guys. Look out for the free resource guide coming soon. So chalk lettering today, I have a chalkboard sitting out here. It is semi-seasoned, but not really. So when you go to do anything on a chalkboard, especially new ones, they're kind of, no offense to whoever's making them, they're not great. They're not like the old school chalkboards that you had in school, I guess, way back in the day. So they kind of have this coating on them that if you've ever written on a chalkboard and left it for a while and then erase it, what you wrote is still probably visible in this like black sheen kind of. So a good way to get rid of that is seasoning it. It requires some upfront work and I recommend doing it quite often actually, but you just take a piece of chalk. This one I've already done it with, so it's nice and flat, but you can take a whole piece of chalk and just lay it down sideways on the board and you're gonna smear it all over your chalkboard, all over it. Cover the whole thing, do it multiple times, coat it. You're gonna do that and then erase the whole thing. I will warn you that it makes a mess, like a big mess. All the chalk dust. So do it somewhere that you don't mind either being able to wipe up or vacuum up or whatever the case may be. So I recommend doing that several times on any new board, and I often do it in between projects as well just to keep it seasoned, and that'll help prevent that what we call ghosting effect. So we'll do it one more time. I would normally cover this very thoroughly across the entire board. I'm just doing this little section that you guys can see. And again, that's to prevent this ghosting so that when we write on it and then erase it later, you don't see what I had previously written. So this board has not been seasoned super well. So if it shows today when we're writing on it, that's why. All right. So first thing first, seasoning, got that done. I always recommend, you see this sitting in the background, having a pencil sharpener, which sounds really weird, but make sure you have one that has the either 2 sizes of sharpener or at least the big one. So mine's labeled graphite and color and then graphite. I'm going to be using this graphite and color one. It is great for sharpening chalk. And yes, it does sometimes make a terrible noise and I'm sorry. But little did you know probably that you can sharpen chalk and get a nice point on it also. You don't have to use that square end like it comes. So, chalk lettering, here we go. So several tips and tricks. I'm just going to show you a couple of my favorite kind of go-to things. One, definitely the pencil sharpener after seasoning. And then just, there's some different, if we just write a word. So it's kind of hard with chalk to get that nice calligraphy or hand lettering look that a lot of people like nowadays on chalkboards. So to go back through, we do what's called faux calligraphy, which I think we talked about some last live lettering, but you can totally do it with chalk as well. So it's just coming back through and touching. Ooh, hello, that's my dog bark, scared me. Going through and coming back over those downstrokes and giving them a thicker feel. So that's one thing you can do. The big thing about chalkboard lettering, most of what draws your eye isn't one word or one, I said that wrong, it is one word. It isn't a single text of, is ghosting a problem other than seeing what was previously written? No. So if you don't care that there's, I don't think I have a board handy that has it on it, but if you write with, say, it's really bad with chalk markers. So if you write a lot with chalk marker on boards that are brand new and you haven't seasoned them, and then you erase the chalk marker, you can just, it's like almost like a black sheen that has all of the words that you've previously written. It's not a problem other than you're just degrading that surface over time in those particular letter places. So no, it's not a super problem. It just, actually taking the time to season your board will increase the longevity of it. So kind of save you money in the long run if you don't want to go out and be buying chalkboards all the time. Let me know if that answered your question. Otherwise, I'm happy to keep going with it. So this is that faux calligraphy type style like we talked about last week. What I started to say was most of the time on chalkboard lettering, what you're really drawn to when they're done well is a mixture of fonts. So it's not, yeah, absolutely, great question. So it's not necessarily that I'm sitting here and I write this really long quote out across my entire chalkboard and I use all one font or all one, I say font. Font to me means with my hands. So not that I use all one lettering style. It's going to be that I mix them and that I throw in some other design elements. So great things to add in are banners or little florals. So a simple banner is just, you can do it straight or at an angle like I'm doing now. Adding in some of these extra little touches. I did that very quickly. But you'll get the hang of stuff like that. And adding in these little extra elements is really what gives chalkboard lettering the appeal that it does. Besides, of course, we like the classic white on black look. So adding in kind of like a special banner that's going to draw attention to maybe a word that doesn't look great written in certain ways. So banners are great. Obviously mixing up fonts. So I say font again, but you guys know what I mean. So not always doing the same H. Maybe I change that up and have more block letters next time. Things like that. Then there's also the design elements of like florals. So adding in, I think I'm getting off the screen, but hopefully you guys can see that. So adding in some little floral designs. So maybe I add in this nice little branch guy here. And the important thing to remember is just like lettering when we talked about hand lettering styles a couple of weeks ago, all of this is just kind of a practice thing. So I used to hate doing block letters and they're still not my favorite, but probably because I don't spend enough time practicing them, right? So same thing, don't get frustrated. Go look on Pinterest, see the things that you like and don't like. So, you know, there's certain things that I'm definitely drawn to and that I am not drawn to, right? So you'll see my style is very much a modern style, especially in chalkboard work. I'll do some formal, more styles with the flourishing and stuff like that. Flourishing is another good way to kind of add in some details to your chalkboard work. I recommend, especially if you're just beginning, every time I do a project, I'm laying it on paper first, which I know I skipped right to a chalkboard today, but I wanted to kind of give you some upfront tips with that. But I sketch everything out on paper. So say a client comes to me and they want, a certain quote laid out, but they don't really have a design in mind, I'm going to split a piece of paper into 4 quadrants, and I'm going to, quick fire out a couple of design ideas. And that way I'm not wasting chalk, I'm not wasting space or time doing all of these elaborate kind of designs. I'm getting quick ideas down, and then I can get quick feedback so that I can see how words line up, how, maybe I need some more space on this one. When you're going to do that design sketch process, the best thing I can recommend is to think about what you want the message to really come across. So say I'm writing, "You got this." Maybe I want the focus to be on you. Maybe I want the focus to be on got. It's kind of what you want the message to be. And so I kind of think about what I want the main message to be and then design around that word. Or in another case, say that there's a word that has, double P's, like happy. That's always really hard to write. So I may choose a certain style of lettering for that particular word and go ahead and place that in where I think I want it in my sketch, and then go in and fill the rest around it with different complementary styles. So hopefully that helps some with laying stuff out. Another great thing for chalkboard lettering is if we go back in, and I'm just going to write another big H here real fast. Not super straight, but you guys get the idea. So say I go in here and I fill in my edges like we talked about before. So another great, and I might have to get up to, oh no, I have some. Thing to do is shadowing. So that makes some nice contrast on the board. And instead of having to, let me get that out of the way. Instead of having to magically know where you want all of your shadows to be initially, you can come in and take Q-tips and erasers are like the best thing ever for chalkboards, which I know sounds really strange, but say I have this nice kind of shadowy gray feel on my chalkboard. Now I can come in and just erase a really clean line next to it. And I don't know if you guys can see that in my lighting, but it comes through and makes a really nice clean line. The other option, let me get my handy dandy chalk holder here, is, it's at the very bottom, of course. Coming in, I like to use a cap eraser just because they're really small and kind of easy to hang on to, but coming down, tracing back down through, and then also you can make little lines through what you've already done. So erasing designs into it, just ways to kind of break up the repetitiveness of letters on your board. So those are really good tricks for kind of making unique options. So I'll do this last line there just for my own OCD brain. Come back and clean up my edges. And that was done with just a little cap eraser. So there's great different ways of tips and tricks mixed together makes ticks. So some easy, quick tips for you guys for chalkboard lettering. So let me know if you have any questions. Certainly if you have questions after the fact, feel free to direct message me questions that you have or requests or any further details that you want about anything that we talked about. But that's just a quick little overview on chalkboard lettering. And if you missed the beginning, for those of you, the 50% of you that voted that you wanted to know and talk about my favorite materials, I'm going to put together a free resource guide for you guys to download and keep that has links to my favorites in a bunch of different categories, not necessarily just chalk. So my favorite brush pens, my favorite gel pens, my favorite watercolors, all of that kind of stuff. And I will get you guys that free resource guide to download and keep, and then maybe do a follow-up session on what those materials are for and what I use them for. Sure. What's the question? Can I ask about pricing and how I handle that? Pricing for what? For chalkboard designs? Let me know what your specific question is, and hopefully I can give you at least a broad answer. And if you have any other questions, guys, while you're hanging out, let me know. Ooh, my computer just went off. Everything got dark. Can you guys hear my Spotify in the background that's playing a commercial right now? I even forgot it was on. All right. So, little quick overview. Yes, let's say doing a chalkboard for a cafe. Yeah, sure. So, pricing is always a really fun question. Make sure you charge enough, which is, I know, a tricky topic, and nobody likes asking for money, even me still sometimes, but what we're doing is a service, and it is a professional service. So remember that you need to value your time and respect the industry itself. So if you know, maybe it's your second project ever and you want to give a discount, that's fine, but maybe say why you're giving a discount, or say that you're trying to build a portfolio, whatever it may be, but make sure that you're pricing within reason for the industry. Because if, somebody picked up a pen for the first time ever and said that they would letter chalkboards, and charge maybe like $1 for a word, then fine, but that's going to essentially saturate that industry for the rest of us. Hey girl, what's up? We're talking about pricing. Always a fun topic. It just makes it harder for the rest of us who have spent the time to learn and perfect and grow this craft. So that's my first word of advice, is don't be shy to stick with a price, even if somebody says that it's too expensive. Don't take that as your prices are too high. Take that as they didn't value what you were doing. So to get back to your actual question, now that I hopped on my little soapbox there, a chalkboard for a cafe, my initial questions are going to be, how big is it? What do they want on it? Do they want extra design elements on it, or do they just want words? And what kind of style they want it in. So those are my 4 major upfront questions before I will give them any sort of indication of pricing whatsoever. Say it's a coffee shop, we'll use that as an example, and it's a 2-foot by 3-foot board. Personally, I do pricing based off a base size pricing, and then I add on for any additional kind of trickiness or additional elements. So if it was a 2 by 3-foot chalkboard that they just wanted writing elements on, I have a base pricing guide for myself that I've set for my 2018 year. Past that, if they want lots of florals, if they want lots of, banners and other elements, then I'm going to add a per element charge for that based on complexity. And those are something that I just have kind of worked out for myself through doing this. I know what comes easy to me, and I know what takes a little bit more time in my brain and in actually doing it with my hand. So that's why I charge those on a per item basis. So hopefully that helps. I absolutely will charge more if it's a very elaborate style of lettering. So if they want all block letters or all capitals, that's a little bit easier than if they want every single word on the chalkboard to be extremely flourished, if that makes sense. So that's why I ask about the general style as well. So typically I give a kind of estimated price based on what they've initially told me, and sometimes they'll come back and be like, okay, just kidding, we didn't really want 3,500 words, we wanted 1,200 words. Please don't ever put 3,500 words on a chalkboard, but you get what I mean. So kind of having those initial questions gets them an idea and gets them thinking about what they really want, which is what you're trying to get from them. And based on, after that point, it's kind of, it differs from person to person. So my main advice is make sure that you understand what they're actually wanting from you before you give them a price, because it's hard to suddenly say, oh, I didn't know you needed all of that. Just kidding. The price is 2 times what I said. But if they say that it's too high, don't instantly just offer, okay, just kidding, I'll do it for less. Stand firm and talk about the value of what you're giving them and why it's worth the price that you said. Okay, does that help? I know that was a long answer about pricing, but pricing is a very, very tricky subject and something that is easy to talk about, but not always easy to implement. So just make sure that, you give it a go at least. So if you set a certain price, say, I'm just going to throw out a number, say you set a minimum of, you need to make $100 profit on any chalkboard that you do. I'm not saying that's a great number. Please don't take these and write them down and use them. But if, say that's your number and you say that that's what you want to do, give it a trial run. Don't just have the first person come and tell you that that's too expensive and then you go and change your prices. Maybe you weren't a good fit for that person. Maybe they found somebody's style who matches better. But give it some time, because the right clients are out there, and maybe it's that you're marketing, you're speaking to the wrong clients with how you're going about it. And it also could be, I know as a new business owner, I don't know if you're a new business owner or not, but as a new business owner, I know that it's super easy to want to just get any client you can have. And the second that you realize the more time you can devote on what you really want to do and get value from that, the happier you're going to be and the less frantic you're going to be. So definitely don't be afraid of pricing. Price what you think is fair, probably price what you think is fair, and then increase it a little bit, because most of the time we undercut ourselves, all of us. I know that I do it as well. So don't be shy. That's my best advice. So I hope that helps. Any other questions or comments about pricing or chalkboard lettering or anything else? What's sitting up here, if you're just joining in, is just a couple of tricks all in a row here. So I have my handy dandy pencil sharpener, which we talked about. Make sure it has a big side to it. I don't know if you guys can see that. There we go. So the little one that comes standard if you just have a one size guy, and then this bigger one is what you can use to sharpen your chalk with, which is nice. Yes, it makes a terrible squeaky noise, but it's okay. You either get used to it or you just play music louder. So these are a couple of my favorite things: a pencil sharpener, a cap eraser. Any eraser will do, but a cap eraser, I find I'm a little bit more, I don't know, skilled with using, if that makes sense. And then a Q-tip, and of course chalk. I don't necessarily have a favorite brand of chalk. I kind of like different ones for different activities. What I have the most of is probably Crayola. Obviously, I don't get the dust-free kind because there's chalk dust everywhere. I don't know that it's really any better. I kind of like the chalk mess. So, what else is in my little kit? Some colored chalk, of course, to add more fun things. You can't really tell that that's green. That's green, guys. There we go. Is that better? Yeah. Chalkboard, lettering, here we are. Any other questions, guys? Q-tip, if you're just joining in, is great for erasing or adding in shadows as well. And then same for cap eraser. And my other main tips: season your chalkboards, always season your chalkboards, and don't be afraid to mix lettering styles, because that's typically what you're drawn to. And of course our little banners that we did. Can you see this down here? Yeah, okay. So stuff like this, and just playing with your layouts is what will take your chalkboard lettering to the next level. Hey, thanks for popping in. All right, guys, so look for a follow-up. That's not quite what I'm trying to say. Look for that free resource guide of all my favorite materials for those of you that voted for favorite materials for this live lettering, and here I am doing chalkboards instead. So I thought you might rather have an in-hand downloadable file for those favorite materials that you could reference for yourself whenever you wanted to, instead of this quick live video. And then maybe I'll do live lettering some point after that to go over all of those materials that are in that guide. So be on the lookout for the free resource guide. I will certainly, announce it in stories or something where you can get your copy. So thanks, guys, for tuning in, and hopefully next week we'll be back on, I would say a schedule, but have we ever been on a schedule? It was like 1 p.m. one day, 1:30 p.m. one day. Today is at 3 because, hello technology. But maybe eventually we'll get on a schedule. So we're aiming next week for 1 p.m. Eastern time, Thursday. But don't hold me to it. Just make sure I do it. Okay. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.